Connecting. Welcome to those just joining. I'm just going to give it a minute or so for people to connect, but welcome to those who are just joining. Okay. Welcome. So thanks for coming. We're on session 4 over here. So this will be based on community-driven nature-based solutions. Just a very quick housekeeping note. You guys, I'm sure you're very used to it by now, but there's of course a chat function, Q&A function. So please do use those. The guys here will try to get to as many questions as possible towards the end of the session. But it'd be good to hear where you're watching in from and so forth. So please do make it as interactive as possible. Ludovic, I'll hand straight over to yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Luc. Ladies and gentlemen, guests and fellow advocates for resilience and sustainability in the Pacific, my name is Ludovic Branland, and I'm the Nature-Based Solution Mainstreaming Advisor at the Pacific Community in Nouméa, and I'm honored and privileged to stand before you today as a co-chair of this community-driven nature-based solution session for the Pacific Resilience Meeting. This gathering brings together some of the brightest minds and most dedicated individuals working towards a common goal, addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change in our beloved Pacific region. The Pacific Islands, with their breathtaking natural beauty and unique cultural diversity, are one of the Earth's most vulnerable yet resilient regions when it comes to climate change. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and the increasing frequency of natural disasters are threats that loom large over our communities. However, it is within these very communities that we find the key to building resilience and ensuring a sustainable future. Today, I would like to emphasize the paramount importance of harnessing the power of community-driven nature-based solutions to combat the adverse effects of climate change in the Pacific. Our communities, spread across thousands of islands, are not just inhabitants of this pristine paradise, they are also the stewards, the guardians, the heart and soul of this region. They hold the wisdom for generations, the traditions that have thrived for centuries, and the innate understanding of their ecosystems. In the face of escalating climate challenges, our communities have proven time and again that they are not passive victims, but active agents of change. They have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity by drawing upon their traditional knowledge, indigenous practices, local innovation, and they pave the way for nature-based solutions that are both effective and sustainable. Nature-based solutions are not only cost-effective, but also environmentally friendly, working in harmony with nature rather than against it. Our communities have been reforesting mangrove, restoring coral reef, protecting watersheds, and conserving critical habitats for generations. They understand the intricate balance of ecosystem and the profound impact that their actions have on the resilience of our fragile Pacific ecosystems. However, it is not enough to rely solely on the resilience of our communities. They need our support, our resources, and collaboration. Today, we must pledge to work hand in hand with these communities, forging partnerships that empower them to protect their lands and seas, adapt to changing conditions, and mitigate the impact of climate change. As we delve into the discussion and presentation within this technical session, let us keep in mind that the solutions we seek are rooted in the knowledge and wisdom of our Pacific communities. Let us recognize the strength and innovation they bring to the table, and let us honor their role as the first responders in the face of climate adversity. The Pacific Resilience Meeting provides a platform for us to amplify the voices of our communities, learn more from their experience, and ensure that their efforts are recognized, respected, and supported on a regional and global scale. In closing, let us remember that the Pacific resilience is intertwined with the resilience of its people and its ecosystems. By embracing community-driven nature-based solutions, we can chart a course toward a more resilient and sustainable Pacific, one that thrives in the face of climate challenges and leaves a legacy of hope for future generations. So our speakers today will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table, and I can't wait for you to hear what they have to say. To do so, I will now give the floor to Mrs. Mathilde Kraft from SPREP, who will co-chair this session, and who will introduce our speakers. Then Tavenisa Luisa from IUCN, also co-chair of the session, will facilitate the Q&A session. And I hand over the floor to Mathilde.
Thank you, Ludo, for setting the stage for this great session. I'm really excited to be introducing all of our great lineup of speakers for this session. And thank you again for your contribution, your work, and your availability today. So first up is Mr. James Tremlett. He's the Pacific Island Roundtable for Nature Conservation and Protected Areas Implementation Coordinator. And he's joining us today to kick things off with some insights into how the Pacific Island Roundtable connects now with the Pacific Resilience Partnership. Then we have Mr. Kevin Egu, who is a coral reef champion from Papua New Guinea, and he'll share his unique journey in everything he's been doing with his community to protect coral reefs and ecosystems, and most recently with the Climate Resilient by Nature Australia Pacific Nature-Based Solutions Challenge. So thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Next, we'll hear from Mrs. Rinvai Vito, the president of the Women's Association of the Semo Village, and Mr. Ratu Ovinibokini, who's working with the 100 villages in Fiji. They both share real-world stories about building resilient communities and including women in resilience work. And then last but not least, of course, Mr. Stoma Yalu, a community engagement officer who will share his experiences in implementing watershed interventions and as well as working on protected areas in the Solomon Islands. Thank you so much again for joining us today. Just also kind reminder as well to please keep to the time. I know we all want to share a lot. Thank you so much. So I'll give the floor to James.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the introductions, Mathilde and Ludo. And I'd like to start by thanking Ludo, Mathilde, Tavenisa, and our whole Nature-Based Solutions Working Group for bringing this very exciting session together, as well as all the speakers for the generosity of sharing your knowledge and your time. So my name's James, and I've got the real honour of being our coordinator for the Pacific Islands Roundtable for Nature Conservation, or PIRT. I'm normally based in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but luckily I am with you in person in Suva this week. And I'm delivering some brief opening comments on behalf of our PIRT chair, Margaret West, who's currently travelling and sends her apologies and wishes and best wishes for this session. So I thought I'd briefly just introduce who is the Pacific Islands Roundtable for Nature Conservation. PIRT is a coalition of nature conservation and development organisations. We were created in 1998 to increase the effectiveness of conservation action in the Pacific. So we currently have 16 member organisations, both NGOs and intergovernmental organisations, including several of the crop agencies. You can see the logos of the member organisations there. And PIRT really is a very similar platform to the Pacific Resilience Partnership in many ways, like the PRP. PIRT, in the same way that the PRP is committed to implementing the FRDP, the main purpose of the roundtable is to collaborate to implement our guiding documents, which is the Pacific Islands Framework for Nature Conservation and Protected Areas and the 2020 Vemore Declaration. And the framework is the primary regional policy document for biodiversity. It's endorsed by all the member countries of the Pacific Islands Forum, as well as all those PIRT member organisations you saw just before. And we review and renew this framework every 5 years at our major conference. And when we last did this in 2020, we made special care to link it specifically to the FRDP, as these are really sister frameworks in a way for achieving very similar goals throughout the region. We also have 6 working groups, of which the Nature-Based Solutions hosting this session is one. Our other working groups are Nature Culture Working Group, really looking at the cultural foundation for nature conservation in the Pacific. We've got working groups on environmental law, on endangered species, on protected and conserved areas, and on invasive species in the region. And anyone and everyone with interest or expertise in these areas are welcome to join any of these working groups. Please do get in touch with me or with others from the roundtable if you're interested in contributing. And to finish, I'd like to say that we're really delighted that our Nature-Based Solutions Working Group has decided to convene this session at the PRM. As the roundtable, we recognise that all the crises that we deal with are interlinked, that the biodiversity crisis is driven by the same factors that drive our crises in climate change and human health and community development. We cannot protect biodiversity without, for example, equitable access to healthcare and education, without strong communities with the ability to make their own decisions, or any of the other social economic aspects of resilience. And conversely, we need healthy biodiversity in order to grow our resilience to natural disasters, our resilience to global economic or political turmoil, and indeed resilience to the climate crisis itself. It's not one or the other. We must address all these meaningfully and together. And so we're delighted to be part of this event and look forward to working much more closely with the PRP into the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity to open this session.
Thank you so much, James, for stressing that those key messages, and also wanted to highlight that the PIRT is really an open as well as all the working groups. So please feel free to connect if you're interested in joining this all these areas of work. I'm going to pass the floor to Kevin, if you're ready to share.
Yep. I'm ready. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Can you hear us there, Kevin? Kevin, you've just muted. If you can hear us, we could hear your microphone.
Okay.
Can you hear us there, Kevin?
Sorry.
No problem.
I'm a bit
When you're ready.
confused. Yep.
Sure.
So, yep, I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, I'm ready. So, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kevin Ebu, coral gardener from Papua New Guinea. I work with Kaima Foundation doing coral restoration programs and activities in Papua New Guinea coastal villages. Let me go to the next slide, please. Yep, we acknowledge and pay respect to the First Nation people. We pay respect to the elders past and present and acknowledge our commitment to ongoing learning and understanding our journey to reconciliation with the First Nation peoples. Next slide, please. Kaima's mission: improve health and prosperity of marginalized communities and the environment. So communities and environment across globe need support. We believe the most sustainable support comes through local partnership and local-driven innovation. Kaima also believes this support transforms lives most effectively when social, economic, and environmental factors are addressed together. Next. So I grew up in a rural coastal community to village where I used to spend most of my childhood time going out with my friends, parents, uncles. and we used to see lots of fish and corals near shores, but we don't see this nowadays. People go further out to look for fish, and one of them is my grandfather. As a child, next slide, please. Sorry. As a child growing up, I set my goals and dreams to get good education, get full-time job to take care of my parents. And also I love playing rugby. I always want to become a 2012, I was doing my grade 10. My mom passed away. I just gave up school, dreams, everything I planned to do. So I came back to the village. Next slide, please. Around 2018, one of my uncle came to the village. He was doing his PhD in one university Gold Coast. One of his projects is to do coral restoration. So he told us that we're going to plant corals in our village. So that was the first time I heard. I was confused, and I asked my uncle, why are we going to plant the rocks and grow them? He said, let's just do it and see how it goes. So we collected corals from the nearest to 8 centimeters, attached them to the frames. We used scrap materials like old uh, uh, light frames, metal, PVC pipe, fishing line, and zip ties. After the setup, my uncle left to Gold Coast. He told me to monitor the corals and check time to time how the coral progress. After a few months later, we went to check the corals. Corals grow twice the size we planted. So a lot of small fishes around the corals. I was really interested and surprised to see the progress of the coral. I didn't know that the rocks can grow. I started working closely with my uncle, helping him to monitor the corals and see the progress about the corals. So next slide. So 2019, I was introduced to Kaima Foundation. I met Celia, the former CEO, project officer Ali in PNG. That I was told that I'll be joining a coral restoration program in Fiji. So I attended a coral gardening for climate adaptation training in Fiji 2019, led by Dr. Austin Bowling Kirby from Corals for Conservation, funded by Kaima Foundation. From the training, I know what is coral. I understand the importance of coral reefs, what role corals play in the ocean, and what corals provide to people and to the sea creatures. I learned a lot out of the training and motivated me to do the coral restoration program in the village. Next slide, please. Next. We came back from the training. We started working closely with Kaima, family, clan leaders, fishermen, youth from the communities. 2019, we set up the coral nursery. From there, I have the passion to do the choral work and choral work become part of my hobby. After a year later, my uncle left for other commitments. I continued the work with Kaima. Next. So looking into the future, we plan to rebuild fishing and protected areas, help adapt to climate change, making new jobs for myself and my community, protecting our environment and our old ways. Next. So what is our methodology for sustainable health and nutrition? Environment health, human health, animal health, and one welfare. Next, please. Before I go, currently I'm mentoring the PNG marine scientists to set up their coral nurseries, conducting scientific monitoring and evaluation for the coral nursery in PNG, writing reports to Kaima and other sponsors. So far, I conducted 4 training with 4 different communities, trained more than 50 youths and elders from the different communities in Papua New Guinea. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your story, and yeah, very inspiring to hear everything that you've been able to learn and achieve for your community in PNG. Thank you for sharing again. I'll now pass the floor to see Mrs. Ruminvai Vito, the president of the Women's Association. So you're joining from the hub, right?
Bulabinaka to you all. My name is Remy. I'm here representing the Semo village community. Well, Semo village falls in the province of Nandrong Anavosa, well known as Singatoka. And I'm here representing the village together with the women's group at Semo. I'll be speaking on building resilient communities through self-reliance. Well, what you can see now is the map of Semo village. Semo, actually, there are 2 rivers running alongside the village. One is known as the Tuva River, and the other one is a branch of Tuva River. So what I'm trying to say, Semo is in between these 2. So you can imagine what actually happens in Semo village when we are hit by the flood. The water level rises from the left and the water level rises from the right. And you can imagine when it meets what actually happens in Semo village. So we are thankful to PACRIS for bringing down, preparing us of what to do when natural disaster strikes like the flood. So way back in 2012, we had this devastating flood which hit Semo village. And it took us 3 months to stay in a community at Nabao village, to stay there for 3 months before everything in Semo village was back to normal. Normal, not in a sense that livelihood was normal, but cleanliness and everything was done at Semo village. And so we moved back to Semo village. And that is the time when the government decided that the village needs to be relocated. But as I speak, people had their own buildings, they had things there, but it's quite hard to move from where we are right now. And that didn't stop. We keep experiencing a flood at Semo village. So the next is the picture shows the resilient building, community village, the village people having a picture there with the PACRIS team, building resilience at Semo village. We are also grateful that we were being assisted of being self-reliance, the ability to self-sustain and to look after ourselves when the disaster strikes. So PACRIS brought this project down, equipped us with resources, supplied us with resources and skills so that we can live on our own. When disaster strikes or anything happens to us, we are able to live on our own. So we were brought up with training of the ladies at Semo, backyard farming. We were taught backyard farming for food security so that we can put fresh vegetable on the table to supply for our family needs. We also did training on tie and dye, screen printing, and to assist the villagers, especially the ladies, in maintaining life at their own homes in the village at Semo. So for disaster preparedness, we were given out with this 72-hour kit where the transistor radio, dry food ration, batteries, torchlights, all these were packed in this 72-hour kit. Apart from that, we ourselves need to take some clothing and so other necessary stuff that has to keep us before any assistance can come after the 72 hours. So PACRIS has already prepared us for that. And with the ladies too, we were taught with this tie and dye, screen printing, to help us, to assist us to live on our own. And as I speak, we have completed a sewing course where the ladies were taught of sewing. So right now, the village ladies are running their own business. Like they do tie and dye, they sell out their stuff, whatever they do, they beautify their homes by putting up curtains which they screen print or dye. And also in the community hall, we do the same thing. So now, livelihood, it's running. The business of this small business is running in the village, and it caters for the needs of the family, especially for the kids, meeting the school needs, going to school, their lunch, whatever. So this is what PACRIS has done, bringing down the project, helping us to be able to maintain what village life is supposed to be like, and being self-reliant. And as we speak, the ladies have completed this sewing training. And like this time tomorrow, we will be having a graduation. So we're thankful to PACRIS for giving us the opportunity to be there, receive our certificate, so that we already have the skills now. We can run our own sewing business. So tomorrow like this, we will be having receiving our certificates. As I've mentioned earlier, for food security, we do backyard farming. The PACRIS brought us the seedlings. And just beside our houses, we have this rich soil where we plant vegetables, cabbage, bean, whatever is there, only for the purpose of providing the family with fresh food. Even though time is hard, but there's something always there for the family. So we're thankful to PACRIS for doing this. And as I have mentioned ahead, livelihood training, tie and dye, screen printing, and bleaching of fabric. As I've said, the ladies are now using these skills in their homes. Not only in their homes, the community and people, as I've said, mentioned earlier, are ordering. They are giving their orders now. The ladies do tie and dye, the ladies do screen printing, and they sell out. And that's how they run their family every day. So that is what we were taught about livelihood and being self-reliant. So that is all that I have. As I've mentioned, we're having a graduation very soon, and we are thankful to PACRIS for all these things. Pinaka.
Vinaka Vakalevu very much for sharing and congratulations on all your work. Ratu, if you want to continue, please.
Volavinaka o Mbulavinaka to you all. My name is Ratu Ovinimbokini Nawurambota, originally from the old town of Tawua. That's like more than 100 kilometers from Suva to Tawua. And I'm the chairman of the National Itauki Resource Owners, consists of 109 villages, 21 district, and also the chairman of the Mba Care Network, and also the staff and finance for the Mba Provincial Council. And first of all, I would like to take this great opportunity to thank the group for allowing me to be part of this Pacific Relations meeting. I thank my colleague, Ms. Remy Vitau, for highlighting everything that's been happening back in our community. I think everything has been highlighted by Remy this morning, this afternoon. It's similar to what we are facing up in the province of Mba or in the district of Tawua. As Ija just mentioned, like the challenges we are facing, like vulnerability of villages to flooding, that has been highlighted. And the other thing, like the community, that they're building resilience community through self-reliance. You can see on the next clip, like you can see so many women and youth have been involved, and also the pastors and chief, they have been involved, but majority of them are like women and youth have been involved. So many questions that rise up, they came up and they asked, why so many women they contribute to resilience? That's the same questions I told those people back in Vanuatu. So many women they contribute. The reason why, because like they got a magnetic parts of them in our life. If I say in the other words, like a man without a woman is like guns without a bullet. That's true. Like we can sit around like men by looking around. If women's are there, they can come up and start bring up to farm up or contribute to resilient lives. And the other thing that I already mentioned by my colleagues, to rebuilding to resilient community through self-reliance, there's so many things that happenings in our community in Tawua, especially in Nambuna and Vanuakula. We are so fortunate. We are thankful to the Pakas group for allowing my community to be part of this special program. The way they were brought up, the way they have been taught, like so many of them, they were so lucky. They were lucky enough to be part of this special program. And I would like to take this great opportunity to thank my colleagues, my friends, all the Pacific Islanders, and to my friends around in the Fiji, in the community, for allowing us to be part of this special program this morning. And the other one is the introduction of 72-hour kit has been mentioned by Ms. Remy. The introduction of the 72-hour kit, as I did mention before, like it's very helpful to the communities. They are preparing themselves from flooding and tropical cyclones. And I did mention to my part of my colleagues that since I came in, like I tried to teach them in advance in first aid. I teach them how to live lives, like to control themselves when tropical cyclone category 1 to 5 comes around. I can teach them how to rely on that, to look after themselves from the tropical cyclone. The reason why, because I was a former British Army as a combat medical technician. Like I spent more than 10 years in British, but I was fortunate to be part of this special program to pass it on to all my communities. And I'm trying all my best to pass it on to the 109 villages and the 21 district in the province of Mba. And the other one is like already mentioned, like it's expansion now. Already those 2 villages has been funded by Pakas, and the other 5, the expansion of that 5 communities, it's not funded by Pakas, but we are so grateful that we came to partners together. They allow us to be part of this special group to continue to pass it on to other communities in the district of Tawua. And the other word what I can say over this resilience intelligence program that has been introduced by Pakas, we had the opportunity to exchange our experience and achievements concerning, one is enhancing food security by means of community-driven sustainable fisheries and agriculture practice. That's some of the main things that happenings in our community. And the other one, we have managed to facilitating access to clean energy and energy efficient technology for sustainable and resilient development in rural communities. From what they've been taught, what in our villages together, we celebrated our collective accomplishments, gain insights from each other. We share our valuable lessons and best practices and deepen our long-standing cultural and spiritual connections with one another with our precious land and our marine resources. From now on, from yesterday, we just before I came over, we had formed up a task force team up in my district up to look after all these 5 more villages. And we are fortunate that we, in our role as a traditional custodians, our land and marine resources, we acknowledge our innate connections with our natural world on our duty to sustainably manage and use of these resources wisely for the benefit of our present and future generations. And the other thing is to acknowledge the interconnectedness of the land, rivers, and seas, and understand that effectively addressing our current global crisis demands of collective cooperations and collaborations of individuals from diverse sectors and backgrounds. And from the other side, we can see from other villages have been included Tabua, Tabulevu, Korobo, Watu Tabui, Nandolondolo, Waikona, and Nandele. As I did mention before, we've been trying to get a fund. We are so happy, we are so fortunate enough that we managed to get some from our group, and we have some self-reliance from our friends. We managed to keep on moving. But in the time being that 109 villages, they're looking for this self-reliance to come over to them. But we'll see how it goes from the time being. The way forward, on the other side, we can see from the way forward, as I've been mentioned before, is to renew. We can see from our way forward that the planting of the vetiver grass. Vetiver grass, so many of us knew very well what is vetiver grass, and we got a special program that's been run by partners for other villages so that we can work together to plant the vetiver grass to the flooded area. And the 72 hours resilient kits distributions. But we thereby renew our commitment to undertake robust actions as the traditional stewards of our land and marine resources through ecosystem-based adaptations. And our way forward, as I mentioned before, we try to improve our communications, effectiveness to ensure that relevant information, decisions, and policies made at the national, regional, and global levels are prominently disseminated in a manner that is easily understood by our local communities on the ground using accessible information sharing platforms. My only advice to my colleagues, I would like to thank you once again this afternoon. My only advice this afternoon, once we come up to these situations, we try to pass on to other resilience, to other communities. Sometimes we come up with so many things try to obstruct our ways. My only advice this afternoon, please never give up. Once you give up, God will show up. When the going get tough, always remember, keep it going. Because I had a story from the elders. I think it's more than 20 years ago. I had a story from the elders. They mentioned to us, it has an example of one ship which has been traveling around from Pacific Islands to islands, facing so many things like rough seas and other kind of things comes across, though the ship has been battered. Everything has been destroyed. But the only thing, keep the ship from being known as the historical side of the ship in the taking a journey was the anchor. Though the ship has been battered, but the anchor holds. The only anchor is Jesus Christ this afternoon. He will take us over, to control us over. He will take the lead, and we have to follow. Once again, I would like to thank you so much for my brothers and sisters who are here and all those who have been listening this afternoon. May God bless you all and bless our Pacific countries this afternoon.
Ratu for this message of hope, and how we all hear your message and advice this afternoon, and we're all in that together. And I see that we have a lot of reactions to all of your presentations in the chat, so I think we'll have a pretty interesting question and answer session following Thomas' presentation that he's kindly pre-recorded. So we'll just play it now. Thank you, Ludo.
Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Yalu and I'm working for Wildlife Conservation Society here in Solomon Islands as a community engagement officer. For this presentation, I will share with you my work with one of the projects that we implement here in Solomon Islands, and that is the Kiwa Wish Plus project. All Pacific Island countries, as we know, depend mostly on the biodiversity, the ecosystem that surrounds them, for their livelihood needs. And due to the impacts of climate change, our people are really facing hard time for them to improve their livelihood as well as to maintain the environment that they live within. So the Kiwa Wish Plus project is trying to help reduce these impacts through certain nature-based solutions that we can apply to help improve our livelihood in the Pacific Islands, as well as to improve the biodiversity that we really depends on for our survival. So the project is implemented in 3 of the major island countries in the Pacific, and that is PNG, Fiji, and Solomon Islands. So here in Solomon Islands, we implement the project in Kolobangara, which is one of the islands that are rich in biodiversity in Solomon. So by implementing this project in the communities, it will help the people's livelihood who depend mostly on the biodiversity, as well as to maintain and sustain the biodiversity in the island that is very important for the country as well as the neighboring Pacific Island countries as well. The Kiwa Wish Plus project is implemented in 8 different communities in Kolbangara. So Kolbangara Island is located in the western province of the Solomon Islands, and it have like 5 major tribal groups with sub-tribes who are occupying the customary lands in the island. The island itself is very rich in biodiversity. It provides variety of ecosystem services for the people in Kolbangara. The people really depend on the biodiversity for food, for water, for building materials. They also depend on the wild crops and gardening for income. Also, they depend on plantations, timber plantation for their income as well. They also focus on fisheries, which is they fish around the areas in the island for market. So this is one of the main reason. Helping the communities in Kolbangara will also help manage the biodiversity as well as to maintain their livelihood. So the Kolbangara Island also support different types of plants and animals, and some of which are endemic to the country as well as for the island itself. The island also have many rivers and streams, and these rivers and streams also support aquatic species, as well as it is one of the main areas that people also use for drinking water, as well as other livelihood needs that they have. So by protecting the biodiversity in the island is very important, so that it can help maintain the status of the environment as well as people's livelihood. So the main objectives of the Kiwa Wish Plus project is trying to help the communities improve the livelihood as well as the ecosystem and biodiversity. So through this, we're trying to introduce nature-based solutions, as well as trying to improve the sanitation and water for the communities. Throughout our meetings with the communities, they also raised that the number one issue for them is the lack of water and sanitation, and also they point out that this leads to pollution of rivers, lands, and also the coastal areas. So that is one of the main areas that we are trying to work with, the livelihood side of the communities, especially water and sanitation. The process that we follow to implement the project in these communities is through certain process, and the first one is the FPIC process. So by doing the FPIC process, we explain to the communities what are the project goals, the objectives. We also discuss with them what are the benefits that the people and the biodiversity will gain from the project, and also we from the discussion we share ideas between communities and the project implementers, WCS. So the FPIC process help us gain information from the communities as well. So we also look at different groups of people in the community. We look at both men and women. We ask for their ideas, their concern about what are the needs that they really look for in the community, and what are the helps that they really need in the community. So for working with these communities, my first experience here with the communities is that livelihood is very important for them, and for us to help them improve their livelihood will also help improve the management of their resources as well. So that is one of the basic areas that we as a organization we have to look at. We have to look at all areas in communities, what are the main needs that they want. So for most of these communities, livelihood is a very important area that they point out that need to be improved in the community, so that it won't be affect the biodiversity of the island. So with the gender risk assessment, we find it very helpful for us to gain information from men and women, since there are two separate group discussion for both genders. Women especially, they are more active during the discussion. They share more ideas, their views, they share their concern for the environment, and since women are the most vulnerable people in our communities, in the Pacific Island communities, and with the climate change impacts, they face more difficulties as well. So during this discussion, they share more ideas, they are more active as well, and they are confident to give what they think it's best for us to help them. And that is why I think the gender risk assessment is very helpful for us during the FPIC process. So for most of these communities, they already engage in one of the nature-based solutions, which is on the objective for the project, and that is the protected area. So these 8 communities that we chose for the Kiwawis Plus project, they already in a tribal groups that are currently working on the protected area, and that is one of the advantages that we have for implementing the project in the community, because they already go through a PA process, and by involving them in this Kiwawis Plus project, it will merge the management strategies that they have for PA as well as the Kiwawis Plus project. The other nature-based solutions that we are still yet to work on is the reforestation and soil conservation. And most of these are not new concept for the communities as well, especially reforestation, since we've been practicing this for a long time. These 2 activities will come after the riparian zone survey that we currently working on right now in the community. So after that activity, we'll be looking at what type of plants that we'll be trying to regenerate within those areas that we studied. So that are some of the nature-based solutions that we are yet to be working on with the communities. So that's the short presentation for the Kiwawis Plus project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomas. Thomas, and yeah, Thomas is here with us online. If you have any questions, thank you, Luke, for the reminder that in 10 minutes we will be wrapping up. But I'll leave the floor to Tavenisa now from IUCN. She's working down on guidelines on how to adapt our NBA standards to the Pacific, and I think this was a lot of very concrete examples and material to help in that regard. So Tave, if you want to go with the Q&A.
Meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Matilda. Thank you for the intro, and hi, everyone. This is a Q&A session, and looks like we have only 10 minutes for this session. So I'll just quickly go through some of the questions. Thank you for the questions that have been posted. Yeah, so most of the questions is from the Samoa Hub. So I'll go straight into the question. This question is to other presenters. So do you have any traditional knowledge of early warning system for disasters in your community? And what type of warning system does your community use to warn of the communities of a disaster? So any of the panelists can answer the question. I'll ask the question again. Do you have any traditional knowledge of early warning systems for disasters in your community? And what type of warning system does your community use? Maybe Ratu, would you take the floor? It's okay for you. If not, we'll jump on to the next question. This question is posed to Kevin. How tolerant are these higher temperature varieties? And do you think they will sustain anticipated temperature increases and associated changes to pH? I think this question is posed on your coral gardening. Kevin, if you can hear me, you can have the floor.
Yep, I can hear you. Yep, the question, there's a coral species we used, it's called Porites. They can survive up to 27 to 32 degrees Celsius. But I don't think they will survive in the future. So we use, we translocate the hotter adapted corals from the hotter nearshore reefs to the cooler offshore reefs where they can grow and survive. Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. There's another question here. To you also, Kevin. Do you sell coral planting as an activity to tourists or hotels, or do you sell it as a tour to locals?
Right now, I'm not selling the coral planting to any other hotels or tourists. We are just trying to regrow the degraded reefs we lost. So, but that's something I'm thinking of doing planning to do in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I think this next question is to Mr. Thomas. What method do you use to restore the community watersheds?
Yes. So for us, we have like multiple interventions that we kind trying to work with the communities and choose from. So there's like reforestation, like we restore vegetation along the riparian zone areas, so that it can help improve the forest status around the areas. The other one is soil conservation that we also look at. That it's this all depends on the communities that we work with, which types of interventions they want us to implement or work with them through the project so that it can help their forest and watersheds. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I think most of some of the questions that has been posed has been answered in the question and answers chat box. There's one question to Ratu. How has flooding affected root crops in Siamo and Ba?
Well, we can see the difference between like when it's dry season, everything is on the right place. As soon as we got flood, it's been everything has been affected in community from Tavo, especially from our community in Siamo. We won't be able to get any from like supplies to look after the market and other for the families as well. But we are fortunate that we've been taught by packers in the time beings have to self-reliance and other ways of doing planting using all the scrap or other leftover stuff, like especially bottles and other kind of stuff, containers in the time being, so that we are ready. We are ready to face whatever comes across, because our community has been adapted to resilience life right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ratu. I think we are at our very last time, catching up with time. I've also sent the link for a poll. If you have any feedback, you can just click on that link and give us some feedbacks in terms of this session. I'll give this back to Ludo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. Ludo, did you want to say any last words, Ludovic, to finish, or we can move on to the next session?
I just would like to thank very much our speakers today. Some of them came a long way to participate to this session, and I think like what we heard from them, from their experience, is really, really interesting. And as we can see, we could have talked like 1 more hour with them and asking for questions, but I invite you to contact us or to contact them directly for the participants if you have further questions. But thanks again to our speakers today. Thank you so much.